Almost a year ago, Notion released their new project management templates for team use across the board. These templates came with pre-built databases and integrations to manage your projects, your tasks, and your sprints all into one ecosystem. In today's video, I'm going to give you 3 additional properties you can use and create within this ecosystem to make your project management much more effective, informative, and qualitative. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do within our Notion workspace is we're going to scroll over, click on templates, and just click on the standard projects and task templates to create this project management ecosystem within our workspace. Right here, we are in the tasks database, and I'm just going to click over projects. And you open it up, you can already see Notion gives you a default set of properties. You see we have a task relation, status, who this project belongs to, the completion percentage so far, and dates, predecessor, successor, aka block by relations, etc. The first property that we're going to add within our workspace to help make our project management system better is an on pace and off pace property. If you're not familiar with that, on pace and off pace is essentially a metric to gauge whether our current progress for our project is currently on pace to hit our mark or is off pace and we might come up short. The way that we're going to do this is we're going to create 2 variables within a Notion formula property, and we're going to compare those variables together to let us know if we are on pace or off pace with our project. So let's click add a property, go to formula, give it a name, on/off pace. And now the primary function that we're going to use for this property is the let's function. This is a new formula property that essentially allows us to create custom variables for our Notion workspace and help us kind of do some easy math without creating multiple properties within a record and then comparing them all at once. So we're going to click let's do shift and enter to split our parentheses up. And the first variable that we're going to come up with is the completion rate. The completion rate is essentially a metric that calculates how much we've gotten done over how much time has elapsed. So to measure that, we're going to create an expression that does the following math for us. We're going to reference the completion property, and we're going to multiply that by the length of the task associated with our project. This will give us the total number of tasks that we have gotten done. We're then going to divide that by how much time has already elapsed given the start of the project. So to do that, we're going to use the date between. We're going to use the beginning date, which is today, and compare that to the start date of the dates formula, and then the metric of time we want to measure is days. So that is our first variable, the completion rate. Next, we're going to do a comma. We're going to create a new line. Now we're going to do the planned rate. The planned rate is essentially a measure of the minimum amount of things that we have to get done to meet our project deadline. We're going to calculate the total number of things divided by the total amount of time we have for this project, and that'll give us the minimum amount that we need to get done. So we're going to do the length. We're going to use the length function again. The length of tasks divided by date end of our dates property. Then we're going to do the date start of the date property again. And again, the metric of time is just going to be days. Now that we have our 2 variables, let's go ahead and create our expression. For the expression portion of the let's function, we're going to create another kind of nestled ifs statement so that we can kind of get 4 different things. Because even though we're creating an on pace and off pace, we kind of want to filter projects that are currently active and not either upcoming or have already finished. So I want to create an ifs, create another line there, and let's start with the first thing. If today is less than the start date, start date of today, we want this to say, we want to style this and we want this to say project upcoming. And let's put it in bold and let's put it in blue. If the end date of a project is less than today, we want this to say project finished. And we'll just put this in gray. Now that we have our two time filters, let's go in and create our on pace and off pace properties. First, we're going to say, hey, if the very simple comparison, if the completion rate is greater than or equal to the planned rate, then that means our project is on pace, and we want that to be in green. However, if our completion rate is less than what we've planned to get done, we want that to say it's off pace, and we want that to be in red so that we can draw attention to, hey, what's going on. That completes our nestled if statement for the expression of the let's function. We've created our multiple variables. Now we can click done. And as you can see here in our sample project, we have a status. We can see that right now we are on pace. Next, we're going to add a letter grade property to our project database. Let's say we reached the end of our goal. We want to give ourselves a value or some type of metric that we can use to symbolize and measure how well we did on our efforts towards our current project. Because sometimes we don't always hit 100% of our goal. We may end up somewhere short of the mark. And that necessarily doesn't mean that we've ultimately failed on our journey. For example, if you were in school or taking a class, just because you didn't get a 100% in the class, it didn't mean that you couldn't pass. You could get away, or I say move on, if you had gotten an 80%, which in this case would be a B, or even a 70% in the class, which would equal up to a C. And so using that same logic, we're going to add a letter grade formula, if you will, to kind of give us a grade on our efforts within our projects so that we can see just how well we did in a more succinct manner. So to do that, we are going to add a property. It's going to be another custom formula of ours. Just give it a nice little symbol here. And boom. And for our letter grade property, we are going to use the ifs function here in Notion. It's essentially a way to group multiple if statements into one function, one code block, so you don't have to write if such and such this and then another if behind it. You can put all of your calculations and expressions into one formula block. So we are going to do that now. And as you can see, we've gone ahead and completed our if statement for our letter grade property. You can see we have a ladder going down, referencing the completion property right here, showing, hey, if the completion percentage is greater than this number, we want this grade, on and on and on. And we can see at a completion percentage of about 75%, that means we've done a C on this project, which is, kind of average or below average, depending on your standards, but what have you. So now for any project that's completed or finished, you can kind of grade yourself on your efforts and use this to better reflect on what you did do right, and then maybe some things that you could have done better. In this case, we had roughly 4 tasks for this project, and we got 3 of them done, but this last one messed us up. It cost us 25 percentage points that would have took us all the way to 100 and gotten us an A plus on this project. So, and all it is was just marking this, updating the project status to done since it is completed, and boom, now we have an A plus. So this is the letter grade property. I encourage you to add it to your own Notion workspace. And now let's move on to the last property to add for your projects. The last property that we're going to add to our project database is a projected completion percentage property. This is going to be an extension of our on pace, off pace property that lets us know if we're currently on track with our project or not. The projected completion percentage allows us to numerically forecast just how much of our project we're going to complete by the end date based upon our current activity. This is basically telling us how much we are either on pace or how much we are either off pace with our project. So I've gone ahead and already created the property. I'd rather just show you how the formula is set up and contained and walk you through it, and then from there show you its final outcome. So we're going to click in, and you can see the function that our projected completion percentage is going to be based upon is once again the let's function. This is hands down one of my favorite functions within Notion because it allows us to do so many multi-stringed mathematical calculations within our database. You can see we have 6 underlying variables for our projected completion percentage property that we had to create so we can get the final math done. It starts with a simple variable measuring how much time has elapsed within our project, which is a date between function from today's date, then the start date, and how many days have elapsed between since the project started to where we are today, followed by the total amount of tasks within our projects. I fumbled that word so much. Which basically is just another length function of how many tasks are related to the project. Then you have the completed total, which is going to be simple multiplication, where we're doing the completion percentage multiplied by the total amount of tasks. So we've got 50% done divided by the total. That should give us our number. Then from there, we do the completion rate, which is something that we worked on in the on pace, off pace property. You can see it's just simply the completed total divided by the amount of time that's gone by since our project has started. And then from there, we have the amount of time remaining. So now we're doing the amount of days between today's date and the end date of our project, how many days left. And then our final variable is the projected completion total, where here we're doing the completion rate, meaning the rate at which we're getting things done, divided by the amount of time remaining. This product will give us kind of a projected total that we will get done based on how much time is remaining. So essentially, if we're getting 2 things done a day currently for this project and we have 5 days left, essentially that means by the end of those 5 days, if we're getting 2 things done a day, we'll have 10 things done. And then we're going to add that to what we've already completed thus far so that we get a final projected completion total that will then go into making up our projected completion percentage in the end. Because after we've defined all of our variables, the last part of the let's function is an expression, which is basically just a mathematical problem to define the formula. And you can see for that expression, we've created an ifs statement, and we've put some time filters on the statement before we get to the final calculation, where basically we're saying if today's date is less than the start date of our project, meaning the start date is in the future, then we want this to be 0 because we can't necessarily project anything for this project, considering that it hasn't gotten underway or in motion yet. Then the second time filter is if the end date of the project is less than today, where we're saying, hey, today's date is greater than the end date of our project, which means it's already been finished or completed. We want this projected completion percentage to reflect what was actually completed. And then lastly, if none of these two time filters applies, which essentially means if this project is active, this is the final calculation that we want our property to do. And it essentially reads, we just want the projected completion total divided by the total amount of tasks for this project. You can see the logic follows. Hey, this is how much we're projected to do. We want that divided by how much we've stated out to do, so that we can see just how much of a percentage we're either on pace or off pace with this project. So if, hypothetically you were running a sales team and you all plan to do $5,000 worth of new business, but you guys are currently on pace to do 7,500, you can see, hey, you guys are like probably like 150 or 200, whatever that math comes to, projected on pace to do. So this is really, really good, helpful property right here for any one of you all who like numbers and things like that, to add to your workspace and kind of help you quantify your projects on an even greater detail. So this is it for today's video. Again, just to recap, we went over 3 new properties to add to your project database for better project management within Notion. Those properties are the on pace, off pace property, the letter grade property, and lastly, the projected completion percentage property. Please let me know what you guys think of the video in the comments below, and please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned. We have more productivity insights to come. But thank you guys for watching. Peace and take care, family.